You've been lied to about power, not in the way you think. The lie isn't that you don't have it. The lie is that you believe you don't. Right now, listening to this, you are carrying a force inside you that could reshape your relationships, your career, your entire existence. But you've been trained since childhood to call it something else. Aggression, selfishness, toxicity. Society didn't just teach you to be good, it taught you to be harmless. And there is a difference. Niccolò Machiavelli spent his life watching powerful men rise and fall in Renaissance Italy. He saw princes conquer cities, politicians manipulate crowds, leaders command loyalty through calculated moves. But here is what haunted him, what he couldn't stop writing about in his letters from exile. The most dangerous people weren't the ones with armies. They were the ones who understood a simple truth about human nature. Most people are asleep. They operate on autopilot, following scripts written by parents, teachers, bosses, cultures that needed them compliant. They've internalized a moral framework designed not to make them good, but to make them predictable. Controllable, safe. You know what Machiavelli called this? Voluntary servitude. And the scary part, the part that is going to sit heavy in your chest for the rest of this video, is that you've been participating in it. Willingly. Every time you've swallowed your opinion to keep the peace. Every time you've let someone take credit for your work because confrontation felt uncomfortable. Every time you played small because playing big might make others feel threatened. You weren't being kind. You were being domesticated. Here is the promise I am making you right now. By the end of this, you are going to see the operating system. The code running underneath every interaction, every power dynamic, every relationship in your life. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But here is the twist nobody talks about. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to teach people how to gain power. He wrote it to show people the power they already had and were too afraid to use. Let's be real. You clicked on this title because something inside you already knows. You felt it. That moment when you walked into a room and everyone's energy shifted. That time you stayed silent and watched someone else take control of a situation you could have dominated. That relationship where you absolutely knew, you were being played. But you let it happen anyway because the alternative meant being the villain. That is not a weakness. That is suppressed power turning inward, eating you alive. And we're about to set it free. But first, you need to understand why it was caged in the first place. Here is what they don't teach you in school about morality. It is a tool, not the truth, not a divine law, a social technology designed to make large groups of strangers cooperate without killing each other. And it works. But here is the cost. It flattens you. Morality tells you that certain desires are wrong, certain ambitions are selfish, certain truths are too harsh to speak aloud. So you learn to edit yourself. You learn to perform goodness, even when goodness means letting others walk over you. Machiavelli watched this happen in Florence. He saw good men lose to ruthless ones, honest politicians destroyed by liars, principled leaders overthrown by those willing to bend the rules. And he realized something that got him exiled, something that made the church ban his books for centuries. The world doesn't reward virtue. It rewards effectiveness. You can be the kindest person in the room and still get fired, the most loyal friend and still get betrayed, the hardest worker and still get passed over for promotion, because kindness, loyalty, and hard work are only valuable if they produce results for someone else. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. You already know this, deep down underneath all the moral programming. You've always known. You've seen the guy who takes credit climb the ladder. You've watched the smooth talker charm their way into opportunities. You've noticed that the people who ask for what they want tend to get it, while the ones who wait patiently get forgotten. But you told yourself a story. You said, that is not who I am. I am better than that. And that is the trap, because better than that is another way of saying less effective than that. And the people benefiting from your moral restraint, they're not playing by the same rules. They're not sitting around worried about being too aggressive or too selfish. They're taking what you are too polite to ask for. Machiavelli called this the gap between how we live and how we ought to live, and he said something brutal about it. A man who wants to act virtuously in every way necessarily comes to grief among so many who are not virtuous. Read that again. You are not losing because you are weak. You are losing because you are playing a different game than everyone else. Let's talk about what power actually is, not the cartoon version, not the movie villain monologuing about world domination. Real power, the kind that operates invisibly in every conversation you have. Power is the ability to change outcomes. That is it. When you speak, and people listen, that is power. When you make a request and it gets fulfilled, that is power. When you set a boundary and others respect it, that is power. And here is a scary part. You already do this. Think about it. There are people in your life right now who modify their behavior based on what you might think or say or do. Maybe it is subtle. Maybe they don't even realize they're doing it. But your presence changes how they act. That is your power. The question isn't whether you have it. The question is whether you are conscious of it and whether you are willing to use it strategically instead of accidentally. Most people stumble through life bumping into their own power like furniture. In a dark room, they don't know where it is, how it works, or why sometimes it seems to appear and other times it vanishes. Machiavelli spent years mapping this furniture. He noticed patterns when princes maintained power versus when they lost it, when advisors got executed versus when they became indispensable, when cities surrendered versus when they fought to the death. And he found something consistent. Power flows to those who understand what others want and are willing to provide it, withhold it, or threaten it strategically. Not the most moral, not the most deserving, the most strategic. You've been in negotiation where you had leverage, but didn't use it because it felt manipulative. You've had information that could have changed a dynamic, but stayed quiet because speaking up felt risky. You've known someone was lying to you, but accepted the lie because confronting it meant conflict. Every single one of those moments was you refusing your own power, and someone else picked it up, because power doesn't disappear when you don't claim it. It just transfers to your boss, to your partner, to whoever's willing to occupy the space you've vacated. But here's where most people get Machiavelli completely wrong. They think he was teaching people to be cruel. He wasn't. He was teaching people to be awake. There is a chapter in The Prince where he talks about cruelty, and everyone quotes the first part, the part about how it is better to be feared than loved. But they ignore what comes right after. A prince must be careful not to make himself hated. See the nuance. Machiavelli isn't saying be a tyrant. He is saying understand the mechanics. Fear can maintain order if it is calculated and purposeful. But hate destabilizes everything. Hate creates enemies who will wait years for revenge. This is strategic thinking, not sadism. And this applies to your life right now. You've got a coworker who takes credit for your ideas. The nice response is to keep doing good work and hope someone notices. The mean response is to publicly call them out and create an enemy. The Machiavellian response: you document everything. You start ceasing the right people on emails. You casually mention your contributions in meetings where it matters. You make it increasingly difficult for them to steal credit without looking obvious. You don't create an enemy. You create a situation where they either stop or expose themselves. That is power. Not because it is cruel, but because it is effective. You've protected yourself without becoming the villain. You've changed the outcome without needing to be loved for it. And this is what scares people about Machiavelli. He forces you to admit that you are already doing these calculations. Every time you've chosen what to say based on who is in the room, every time you've timed a request based on someone's mood, every time you've framed something carefully to get the response you want. That is manipulation, but we call it social skills when we're doing it unconsciously, and we call it Machiavellian when we do it on purpose. The only difference is awareness. Let's go deeper. Why does your power scare you, not other people's power? Yours, because if you are honest, really honest, there is a part of you that knows what you are capable of. You've had thoughts you've never said aloud, strategies you've never implemented, moves you could make that would change everything, but you've kept them locked in the hypothetical. Why? Because using your power means accepting responsibility for the outcome. Right now, you get to be the victim, the one who tried their best but got screwed over by circumstances, by bad people, by an unfair system. And there is comfort in that story. It means you are good. You are moral. You are on the right side. But Machiavelli is about to ruin that comfort. Because once you recognize your own power, you can't claim helplessness anymore. If you stay in that job you hate, it is not because you are trapped. It is because you haven't made the strategic moves necessary to leave. If you are in a relationship where you are not respected, it is not because the other person's terrible. It is because you've taught them through your actions that disrespecting you has no consequences. Harsh. Yeah, but here is the freedom in it. If you are responsible for the outcome, you can change the outcome. You are not waiting for someone to rescue you. You are not hoping the universe rewards your goodness. You are not praying that people will suddenly start treating you better. You are the active force, and that is terrifying because it means every bad situation you are in, you have the power to exit or transform. You've just been choosing not to because choosing means risk. It means conflict. It means potentially being seen as selfish or aggressive or difficult. Machiavelli would ask you a simple question. What is more selfish, using your power to improve your life or staying powerless and resenting everyone around you for not fixing it? Here is what happens when you stop suppressing it. First, people notice. Not because you become mean or manipulative, but because you become clear. You say what you want. You establish what you won't tolerate. You stop performing niceness and start operating from genuine self-interest balanced with strategic cooperation. And some people won't like it. The ones who benefited from your passivity will call you changed. They'll say you've gotten cold, distant, selfish. They're not wrong. Exactly. You have changed. You've stopped letting them use you. But here is what Machiavelli understood that most people don't. You can't be loved by everyone and maintain power. The moment you try to please everybody, you've handed control to whoever's most willing to withhold approval. You become a puppet dancing for validation, making decisions based on who might get upset rather than what actually serves you. That is not kindness. That is cowardice. Real power means accepting that some people will dislike you and moving forward anyway. It means making the strategic choice even when it is not the popular choice. It means prioritizing effectiveness over likability. And yeah, it is lonely at first, because you are stepping outside the social contract that says we all pretend to be equally powerless, equally at the mercy of circumstances, equally unable to change our situations. But then something shifts. You start attracting different people, the ones who respect clarity, the ones who operate from strength themselves and recognize it in others, the ones who'd rather deal with someone direct than someone passive-aggressive. Your relationships become simpler, not easier necessarily, but cleaner, because you are not hiding, you are not performing, you are not trying to trick people into giving you what you want while maintaining plausible deniability about wanting it. You just want it, and you say so. And either it happens or it doesn't, but at least you are not lying to yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. Machiavelli wrote The Prince while he was in exile, broke, powerless, banned from the city he'd served his entire adult life. And from that position of absolute weakness, he wrote the most influential book on power ever created. Why? Because he understood something crucial. Power isn't about your circumstances. It is about how you think. He couldn't command armies anymore, couldn't advise princes, couldn't participate in politics. But he could observe, he could analyze, he could write. And through writing, he influenced every political thinker who came after him. That is power. Not the power to force outcomes, but the power to shape how people think about outcomes. And you have this too. You might not have the job title you want yet, the relationship status, the bank account, the external markers of power, but you have the ability to reframe how you see yourself and your situation. Right now, you could decide that you are not a victim of your circumstances, but an agent operating within constraints, that every limitation is a puzzle to solve rather than a prison to accept, that the game you've been losing is only one game, and you are free to start playing a different one. This is the scary part, because once you realize you've been choosing your own limitations, you lose the comfort of believing you had no choice. You lose the innocence of thinking the world just happens to you. You become responsible, and responsibility is the price of power. Let's get practical for a second. What does this actually look like in your daily life? You are in a meeting. Someone interrupts you for the third time. The nice response is to let it go. The Machiavellian response is to pause, make eye contact, and say calmly, "I'd like to finish my thought." That is it. No aggression, no drama, just a clear assertion of your right to speak. And watch what happens. Either they respect it and you've established a boundary, or they push back and reveal themselves as someone who doesn't respect boundaries, which is valuable information. You've changed the dynamic without being mean. You are on a date. The other person's been flaky, canceling plans, texting sporadically. The nice response is to keep being available, hoping they'll come around. The Machiavellian response is to mirror their energy, become equally unavailable, and see if they step up. You are not playing games. You are testing for genuine interest versus the desire to keep you on standby. If they step up, great. If they don't, you've saved yourself months of wondering why you are always the one initiating. You want a raise. The nice response is to work harder and hope your boss notices. The Machiavellian response is to document your value, research market rates, schedule a meeting, and present a clear case for why paying you more is in the company's interest. You are not demanding. You are negotiating from a position of demonstrated value. See the pattern? Power isn't about being ruthless. It is about being strategic. It is about understanding what you want, what others want, and finding the intersection where both can be satisfied, or having the clarity to walk away when they can't. Most people never get here because they never admit what they want. They hide behind should. I should be grateful for this job. I should give them another chance. I should wait my turn. Should according to who? According to a moral framework designed to keep you manageable. Machiavelli's gift to you is permission. Permission to want what you want without justifying it. Permission to pursue your interests without pretending they're noble. Permission to be effective instead of good. But here is the warning. Nobody gives you. Once you step into your power, you can't go back. You'll see the game everywhere. In every conversation, every social interaction, you'll spot the power dynamics. Who is leading? Who is following? Who is being direct? Who is being manipulative? Who is operating from strength? Who is operating from fear? And it'll kind of ruin things for a while. You won't be able to watch people perform niceness without seeing the strategy underneath. You won't be able to hear someone play victim without recognizing the power move it is. You won't be able to participate in the collective delusion that we're all equally helpless, equally at the mercy of forces beyond our control. Because you'll know the truth. Most people are powerful and pretending not to be. They've got leverage they won't use, options they won't explore, words they won't say, boundaries they won't enforce, and they've built entire identities around this self-imposed helplessness. Being the nice guy who finishes last, the hard worker who never gets recognized, the loyal friend who always gets betrayed, these aren't descriptions of what is happening to them. These are choices they're making about how to show up. And once you see this in others, you'll see it in yourself. Every time you're about to swallow your opinion, you'll feel it. That moment where power's available and you are choosing to hand it away, and you'll have to decide, am I doing this strategically because speaking up doesn't serve me right now? Or am I doing this out of fear, out of habit, out of a desperate need to be seen as good? The first one's fine. Strategic silence is power. But the second one, that is just cowardice dressed up as virtue. And you won't be able to lie to yourself about it anymore. Machiavelli died broke and mostly forgotten. His books were banned. His name became synonymous with evil. Centuries of scholars and priests condemned him as immoral, dangerous, a corrupter of youth. But here is what is wild: every powerful person since has read him. Every president, every CEO, every leader who has shaped the world has studied the prince. Not because they wanted to be evil, but because they wanted to be effective. And they understood what the moralists didn't. Machiavelli wasn't teaching immorality. He was teaching reality. He was saying, here is how power actually works. Not how we wish it worked. Not how it should work in an ideal world. How it works in this world, with real humans who have real self-interest and real fears and real desires. And if you want to navigate that world successfully, you need to understand the rules. Not the fake rules written in motivational posters. The real rules, the ones nobody says out loud but everyone successful follows. And the most important rule, you are already powerful. You've always been powerful. You've just been taught to apologize for it, to hide it, to perform weakness, so others feel comfortable. But their comfort isn't your responsibility. Your power isn't something you need to earn. It is something you need to stop apologizing for. So here's where we land. You've got two paths forward. Path one, you close this and go back to pretending. You tell yourself that being nice will eventually pay off, that working hard will eventually get noticed, that people will eventually treat you the way you deserve. And maybe they will. But probably they won't, because the world doesn't work on fairness, it works on power. And people respect power, even when they claim to value niceness. Path two, you accept it. You accept that you've been voluntarily weak, that every situation where you felt powerless, you had options you didn't take, that you've been performing goodness while others were getting results. And you start operating differently, not cruelly, not ruthlessly, but strategically. You start asking for what you want. Setting boundaries that actually mean something. Making moves based on what serves you rather than what makes others comfortable. You become, in a word, Machiavellian. And yeah, it is going to feel weird at first, selfish, maybe aggressive. But that is just the contrast between how you've been living and how you are capable of living. Give it time. Eventually, operating from power will feel more natural than operating from weakness. Eventually, you'll wonder why you ever thought being harmless was a virtue. And when you get there, when you are fully inhabiting your own power without apology, that is when you'll understand why the title says it is scary. Not because you are dangerous to others, because you are dangerous to others, because you are dangerous to the version of yourself that was willing to stay small. And that version, it can't survive contact with the truth. It never could. Here's what you've just learned. You are not powerless. You never were. You've been operating under a moral framework designed to make you controllable, and you've internalized it so deeply you can't tell the difference between being good and being harmless. But now you can. Now you've seen the mechanism, how power works, how it flows, how it has been taken from you every time you chose niceness over effectiveness. And with that knowledge, you can start making different choices. Small ones at first. A boundary here, a clear statement there, a strategic move that prioritizes your interest without apologizing for having interests. And over time, those small choices compound into a life where you are not waiting for permission, not hoping for fairness, not performing weakness to make others comfortable. A life where you are the active force, where your power isn't scary because you've made peace with it, because you've learned to wield it consciously, strategically, effectively, where you've stopped pretending to be helpless and started being honest about what you are capable of. That is the world on the other side of this video. A world where you are not the victim of circumstances, but the architect of outcomes. Where you've traded the comfort of innocence for the freedom of agency. Where you are finally, fully, unapologetically powerful. And yeah, it is scary. But only at first. After that, it is just who you are. Now, if you want to go deeper into how powerful people actually think, how they make decisions when everyone's watching and when nobody is, I've got a video that breaks down the exact psychology behind strategic action. It is linked at the end of this, but fair warning, it is not going to make you feel better about humanity. It is just going to make you better at navigating it. The choice, as always, is yours, but at least now, you know you are choosing.